As we journey through life, each of us faces different paths and challenges. But as we enter our later years, some people find themselves living in ways that bring deep sadness and hardship. These are not just stories of old age, but stories shaped by a lifetime of choices, family relationships, and circumstances beyond their control. Today, I want to share with you the stories of 9 types of elderly people who often face the most difficult and lonely lives. From those whose children have turned their backs, to those who suffer from poor health or financial struggles, to people who have no home to call their own, these situations are heartbreaking. Some have lived without children, while others gave all they had to their families, only to find themselves forgotten. As you listen, you may recognize parts of these stories, or even see reflections of your own life or the lives of those you love. I hope that through understanding these realities, we can all reflect on how to better prepare for the years ahead and how to care for the elderly around us. Because everyone deserves to age with dignity, love, and peace. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Elderly people with unfilial children. There's a certain kind of pain that can't be measured by medicine or softened by money. It's the heartbreak that comes when, in our later years, the children we once held in our arms turn away from us. Across generations and cultures, there is an unspoken hope that when we reach old age, the love and effort we invested in raising our children will come back to us, not as payment, but as simple kindness, respect, and care. But for some elderly people, this hope fades into disappointment, leaving a shadow that darkens their golden years. Picture a quiet home, once filled with laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet, now silent except for the ticking of the clock. The phone rarely rings, and when it does, the conversations are brief and hurried. For seniors with unfilial children, this is not just a lonely reality, but a deep wound that never quite heals. The children they sacrificed for, often at the cost of their dreams and comfort, now seem too busy, too distant, or perhaps even resentful. Birthdays pass unnoticed, holidays go uncelebrated, and visits become obligations rather than acts of love. For some, the hurt cuts even deeper. When illness strikes, it reveals the true nature of these relationships. Instead of comforting hands and gentle words, they are met with avoidance, indifference, or even irritation. Some children are quick to shun responsibility, offering little more than excuses, and hoping someone else, perhaps a sibling or even a stranger, will step in. The elderly, once the pillars of the family, now find themselves begging for attention, for a simple act of care or concern. When they can no longer manage on their own, their greatest fear is not death, but abandonment. It is a terrible paradox. The people who gave us life and love may, in their most vulnerable years, be seen as burdens by those they love most. In some cases, this neglect isn't just emotional. It can become financial and physical, too. Stories abound of elderly parents left to fend for themselves, struggling to keep up with daily needs, paying for their care from meager savings, or, in heartbreaking instances, living in unsafe or neglected conditions. The trust and hope they placed in their children is shattered, replaced by anxiety, humiliation, and a sense of deep betrayal. It's important to recognize that not every family story is the same. Some adult children face genuine hardships themselves, financial stress, mental health struggles, or complicated life circumstances that make caring for an aging parent overwhelming. But in many cases, the real issue is a lack of empathy or willingness to step up. American culture, which prizes independence, sometimes leaves older adults isolated, especially as families spread across the country and connections weaken over time. The emotional toll on elderly people in these situations cannot be overstated. They may withdraw, losing interest in life, suffering in silence as their world grows smaller. Some develop depression or other health issues exacerbated by loneliness and neglect. And yet, even as their hearts ache, many parents continue to hope for reconciliation, holding on to memories of happier times and wishing for a simple gesture, a phone call, a visit, a thank you. In the end, the story of elderly people with unfilial children is not just about individual sorrow, but a reflection of our collective values as a society. How we treat our seniors, how we honor those who paved the way before us, says as much about us as any monument or law. For those of us watching or reading, it is a reminder. The bonds we forge in family are precious and fragile. In our own lives, may we strive to keep those bonds strong and never let the people who loved us first feel alone in their final chapters. 2. Elderly people with poor health. As the years pass, our bodies inevitably change, sometimes in ways we never expected. For many older adults, declining health becomes the greatest hurdle of all, the difference between a life that still holds joy and purpose and one overshadowed by pain, dependency, and fear. The reality is stark. Poor health can strip away not just physical abilities, but also dignity, independence, and hope. It can make the world feel smaller with each passing day. Imagine waking up in the morning, your joints aching before your feet even touch the floor. Tasks that once seemed so simple, bathing, making a cup of coffee, tying your shoes, now require planning, patience, and sometimes the assistance of others. Doctor's appointments pile up, pills fill the cabinets, and familiar faces in waiting rooms become part of your routine. For many, chronic illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, or arthritis become unwelcome companions, dictating what you can eat, how far you can walk, and even how long you can sleep at night. For some seniors, it goes further still. Some find themselves bedridden, days and nights blending as they stare at the same ceiling. The radio or television might play in the background, but a real human connection becomes rare. Family members may try to visit, but schedules, distance, and discomfort with illness mean that time together grows short and infrequent. Caregivers, whether family, hired help, or staff in a facility, may be kind and attentive, or they may be stretched thin, rushed, and tired. The feeling of being a burden often settles in, heavy and unspoken. Nothing can truly prepare someone for the emotional impact of losing their independence. There's a deep frustration that comes with not being able to do for yourself, a longing for the days when you could drive to the store or go for a walk without a second thought. Some days are filled with anger or grief, as you watch friends move on with their lives while you remain tethered by your limitations. The fear of falling, of needing help in the night, or of being forgotten becomes ever present. Sometimes it's not just the illness itself, but the loneliness that comes with it, that does the most harm. Yet, even in these difficult circumstances, many older adults find small ways to keep going. A smile from a nurse, a favorite old song on the radio, the warmth of sunlight through the window. These moments become treasures, reminders that life still has something to offer. Some families rally around their loved ones, making sure they feel valued and included, even if outings and celebrations look different than before. Others seek support from neighbors, church groups, or community programs designed to bring companionship and relief. The harshest stories, though, are those where support is missing. When illness drags on for years and resources run thin, it's easy to feel forgotten. For seniors with no one to advocate for them, poor health can mean living in neglect or even danger. Hospitals and nursing homes see this every day. Individuals who once thrived now living only to survive, their world reduced to the four walls of a room and the faint hope that someone, somewhere, still remembers them. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. What these stories reveal is a simple truth. Growing old is not easy, and declining health can make it harder still. But how society responds, how families, neighbors, and communities step up, can make all the difference. We owe it to our elders, and to ourselves, to create a world where no one faces illness alone, where even the frailest among us are seen, heard, and valued. For in the end, the measure of a good life is not just how we live when we are strong, but how we care for one another when we are at our most vulnerable. 3. Elderly people without pensions or savings. Throughout our working lives, we're told to save for the future. Put aside a little each month, invest wisely, plan for the years when the paychecks stop coming. But life, with its unpredictable turns and sudden storms, doesn't always allow for careful planning. Sometimes there's not enough to save, or medical bills and family emergencies drain what little has been set aside. The years fly by, and suddenly retirement is not a time of leisure, but of worry and constant calculation. For many elderly people, the reality of living without a pension or savings is a daily struggle that cuts deeper than pride. Imagine waking up each morning, not with the freedom to decide how you'll spend your day, but with the anxiety of wondering how you'll afford groceries, medicine, or even rent. The security that comes with a steady pension or a nest egg is absent. Social Security, while a lifeline for millions, often barely covers the basics, especially with the rising cost of living, medications, and housing. For those without family support or resources, every unexpected expense, a broken appliance, a doctor's visit, a rise in utility bills, feels like a looming crisis. This constant worry forces many older adults to make impossible choices. Some quietly skip meals to stretch their dollars further, who cut pills in half to make prescriptions last, or who put off needed care because the co-pays are too high. Public assistance, food pantries, and charity programs become lifelines. But for many, asking for help feels humiliating. Pride, so hard won over a lifetime, is slowly chipped away by the realities of need. For some, the only option is to turn to their children for support. This brings its emotional weight. The roles are reversed. Now it's the parent asking for help, sometimes facing impatience or even resentment from children who have their own families to support. Every time the subject of money comes up, it can lead to embarrassment or tension, leaving older adults feeling like a burden. Some quietly endure, asking for as little as possible, while others find themselves the subject of family disputes or left on the outside altogether. Others look for ways to keep working, even as age and health make employment more difficult. They take on part-time jobs, cleaning houses, bagging groceries, or caring for other seniors, grateful for every dollar earned but painfully aware that most of their peers are enjoying well-deserved rest. These jobs often come with little security and no benefits, and each year, the work gets harder. Still, the independence gained, even a small amount, is precious, a way to hold on to dignity in a world that sometimes seems indifferent. For those who have neither children nor work, the prospects can be even more dire. Some end up sharing homes with other seniors, banding together to split rent and utilities. Others face the heartbreak of losing their homes altogether, forced to move into subsidized housing or, in the worst cases, becoming homeless. The dream of a comfortable retirement is replaced by a daily battle to survive. Yet, amid all these challenges, there is a quiet strength. Older Americans have weathered storms before: wars, recessions, personal losses, and many draw on that resilience now. Community centers, churches, and organizations offer connection and support, and the simple act of reaching out for help can turn isolation into belonging. It is a sobering reminder to us all. Not everyone ages with the same resources, but every elder deserves respect, dignity, and security. As a society, and as individuals, we can offer more than charity. We can offer compassion, advocacy, and policies that ensure no one has to face their golden years with empty pockets and a heavy heart. For in the end, the value of a life is not counted in dollars, but in the care and kindness we extend to one another. 4. Elderly people without their independent housing. For most people, home is not just a place. It's a sense of security, privacy, and belonging. As we age, that feeling becomes even more precious. There's comfort in knowing you can putter around your kitchen in the morning, decorate the living room just the way you like, or simply close the door and enjoy a peaceful afternoon nap. But for some seniors, that sense of home is lost in their later years, replaced by uncertainty, rootlessness, and sometimes quiet humiliation. Imagine reaching old age only to realize you have nowhere of your own to call home. Maybe you once owned a house, but over the years, it was given to your children, sold to pay bills, or lost to unfortunate circumstances. Maybe you never had the means to buy one in the first place, always renting or staying with relatives. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. You find yourself moving from place to place, never settling in, always a guest under someone else's roof. For many older adults, this means rotating between the homes of their adult children, staying with one son for a few months, then moving on to a daughter's house, always careful not to overstay their welcome. At first, it might seem like a blessing, a chance to spend time with family, to be cared for, to watch grandchildren grow. But in reality, the constant moving takes its toll, both physically and emotionally. You learn to keep your belongings in a suitcase, to adapt to different routines, to tiptoe around family dynamics. There's the unspoken worry that you're a burden, or that your presence is quietly resented. Even for those who are fortunate to have caring children, living in someone else's home means losing a measure of autonomy. Decisions about meals, daily schedules, visitors, even what TV channel to watch, are no longer yours to make. The smallest habits, like morning coffee or afternoon walks, might be interrupted or deemed inconvenient. It's hard to maintain a sense of dignity when you have to ask permission or wait for others to provide what you need. The sense of home becomes fragile, easily broken by tension or misunderstandings. Worse still are the families where conflict is already simmering below the surface. Differences in expectations, lifestyle, and personality can quickly turn hospitality into hardship. Arguments flare up over trivial things, old resentments resurface, and the elderly person feels increasingly isolated, unwelcome in the very places that should feel safest. Sometimes, seniors are shuffled from one child's home to another, not out of love, but out of obligation or even avoidance, with no one truly wanting the responsibility for long. Of course, there are other situations, too. Some elderly people move in with friends, siblings, or distant relatives. Others rent rooms or share apartments with strangers to make ends meet. The longing for a space of their own never fades. A small apartment, a cozy cottage, anywhere they can arrange their things and make their own rules. The absence of independent housing isn't just an inconvenience. It can erode confidence, create anxiety, and heighten feelings of vulnerability and loss. It's easy to take a sense of home for granted until it's gone. Without a place to call their own, seniors may lose connections to neighbors, favorite routines, and even pets. The freedom to make choices about daily life shrinks. For those already struggling with health or mobility, moving frequently can be physically exhausting, leading to a decline in both mental and physical well-being. And yet, even in the midst of all this, many older adults carry on with quiet resilience, finding ways to adapt, to stay grateful for what they do have, and to seek out small joys in each new situation. Their stories are a powerful reminder to us all of the deep human need for a place to belong, a place to call home, especially in our final chapters. For those of us who still have the keys to our front door, may we never take that blessing for granted. And for those who don't, may our communities find ways to offer not just shelter, but dignity, stability, and true belonging. 5. Elderly people who never married or had children. In every town across America, some men and women walk through life on their terms. Some chose to build careers instead of families. Others found joy in friendships, hobbies, and travels, never feeling the pull toward marriage or parenthood. For a long time, their independence was a badge of honor, a sign of freedom, self-reliance, and living life on their timetable. In their younger years, they were the ones who could pack up for a weekend trip on a whim, pursue opportunities wherever they appeared, and shape their lives without the weight of family responsibilities. Friends often envied their flexibility, their freedom to spend, to rest, to simply be. But as the years roll on, even the most independent spirits can find the world growing quieter. Old friends move away or pass on. The workplace, once a source of identity and daily connection, fades into memory with retirement. Neighbors come and go. The days become a little longer, the nights a little lonelier. For elderly people who never married or had children, this solitude can sneak up suddenly. One day you realize that, without family ties, you are the last leaf on your branch of the tree. Without a spouse to reminisce with or children to stop by for a Sunday dinner, even the most well-intentioned efforts to stay busy can start to feel empty. Holidays, once spent among friends or in lively gatherings, might now be spent alone with only the television for company. Birthdays come and go quietly. If a health crisis arises, there is no automatic support system, a spouse to call an ambulance, a child to hold your hand in the waiting room. Instead, these seniors must lean on paid caregivers, distant relatives, or the kindness of neighbors who may have their own busy lives to juggle. Even those who have planned well, setting aside money for their later years and moving into quality retirement communities, often find that emotional support can't be bought. In these settings, the presence of families, children, grandchildren, even in-laws, can be seen everywhere on weekends and holidays. For those without, the absence is a silent ache. Sometimes, it leads to being treated differently. People assume there is no one to advocate for you, so you may receive less attention or care. There can also be an unspoken stigma, as if lacking a family is somehow a personal failing, rather than simply the result of choices or circumstances. Of course, not every story is tinged with sadness. Some people who never married or had children embrace their solitude and thrive within it. They discover new friendships, become beloved aunts or uncles to friends' children, or pour themselves into causes and communities that become chosen families. The freedom that once seemed like a luxury is now their greatest asset, allowing them to reinvent themselves and pursue new interests at any age. Still, the reality is that growing older without close family can leave gaps that are hard to fill. Loneliness and vulnerability become constant companions, especially when illness or frailty arrives. For some, the days become a waiting game, hoping for a phone call, a letter, or a knock on the door. For others, the burden of planning for every possibility, medical, financial, and emotional, falls entirely on their shoulders. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Yet, even in these circumstances, there is an undeniable resilience. Many childless seniors become models of self-sufficiency and courage, facing each challenge head-on. Their stories remind us that, while family is a blessing, community is essential. The connections we make with neighbors, friends, and support groups can offer real comfort and meaning. And for the rest of us, it is a gentle reminder to reach out, include, and care for those who may not have family by their side, ensuring that no one ages truly alone. 6. Elderly people with children who have no prospects. Throughout life, many parents dream of seeing their children succeed, finding good jobs, building happy families, and living responsibly. There is a deep comfort in knowing that, when you are no longer able to stand as strong as you once did, your children will not only be there for you, but will also be living well themselves. Yet for some seniors, reality is much harder. They watch as their children, now adults, remain adrift, unable to hold a steady job, living paycheck to paycheck or, in some cases, not working at all. Instead of being a source of pride or comfort, these children become a constant source of worry and heartache. Imagine the weight of spending decades working long hours and making sacrifices, only to see your adult children struggling or unwilling to make their way. Maybe they lack education or job skills, or perhaps they are caught in a cycle of poor decisions, unable to hold employment, drifting from one temporary situation to another. Some may wrestle with addiction, others with mental health issues, and some are simply content to live under their parents' roof, even as the years tick by. For parents who had hoped for self-sufficient sons and daughters, every day brings a gnawing anxiety about what the future will hold. For these elderly parents, retirement does not bring the relief or relaxation they might have once imagined. Instead, their so-called golden years are spent stretching every dollar, trying to provide for grown children who never quite left the nest. The quiet hope for rest and peace is replaced by the noisy chaos of adult children still dependent on them, sometimes emotionally, often financially. Each month, Social Security checks, small pensions, or savings that should have provided comfort must now be divided and doled out, not for personal needs or pleasures, but to cover their children's bills, car repairs, or even debts. This kind of burden is often invisible to outsiders. In public, these parents might put on a brave face, downplaying their worries or making excuses for their children. But behind closed doors, the stress is relentless. Some parents feel guilty, wondering where they went wrong or how they could have raised children so ill-prepared for adult life. Others resent the situation, feeling trapped or even angry, but uncertain how to change things at this stage. It's a heavy load, emotionally and practically, to carry into old age. Even more heartbreaking is the realization that, for some, the well will eventually run dry. Savings get depleted, homes are mortgaged or sold, and what little financial security they once had slips away. And while many parents continue giving out of love and a sense of duty, the worry remains. Who will care for both parent and child if the parent can no longer provide? The fear of what happens, if something happens to me, keeps many elderly parents up at night. Of course, not every story is one of hopelessness. Sometimes, with time, support, and encouragement, grown children do find their way, getting a steady job, building confidence, or even coming back to support their aging parents after all. But for many, the cycle of dependence seems endless. These situations call for deep wells of patience, resilience, and, where possible, outside help, whether from social services, counseling, or community support groups. The experiences of elderly people with children who have no prospects remind us that family life is rarely as simple as we wish. The love between parent and child can be a lifeline, but it can also become a complicated knot that's hard to untangle. In the end, these parents show extraordinary endurance, caring for their children long past the years anyone would expect. Their stories invite us to show more compassion and understanding, not just for aging parents, but also for struggling adults who may still be searching for their place in the world. 7. Elderly people with a lifetime of poor conduct. Every family or small town has that one person, maybe an uncle, a neighbor, or even a parent, whose reputation precedes them. In their younger days, they lived fast and loose, known for gambling away paychecks, drinking too much at every celebration, or letting anger get the best of them at home. The stories follow them, the nights spent at bars instead of the dinner table, the arguments that shattered peace, the selfish choices that left wounds in the family. When you live that way for decades, thinking only of yourself or chasing every fleeting thrill, the years eventually catch up with you, especially when you grow old. There's a saying that, what goes around, comes around. For elderly people who built their lives on poor conduct, whether through selfishness, addiction, dishonesty, or simply neglecting those who needed them, the consequences of those choices can hit hardest in the final chapters. The people they once hurt have grown older, too, and wounds may still run deep. Children, spouses, and siblings who endured harsh words or careless actions often distance themselves, choosing to protect their peace rather than invite old pain back into their lives. As the years pile on, these elderly individuals may find themselves isolated, surrounded not by friends or loving family, but by memories and regrets. It's not just the absence of visits or phone calls. It's the silence in the house, the empty chair at the table, and the knowledge that, for all their bravado or self-assuredness, they now face the quiet consequences of a lifetime of burned bridges. For some, there's a stubborn pride that still lingers, a refusal to admit any wrong or ask for forgiveness. For others, regret creeps in slowly, leading to long hours of reflection. What if I had been kinder, more patient, more giving? Health problems are often compounded by this loneliness. There may be no one to take them to doctor's appointments, help with groceries, or even offer a gentle word on a hard day. Some rely on strangers or social workers, but the care is never quite the same as that offered by family. At times, the bitterness only deepens, making it even harder for those around them to step in or reach out. For caregivers, these are some of the toughest cases. offering compassion to someone who never seemed to show much compassion themselves. Yet, even in such circumstances, life sometimes offers a second chance. There are stories of people who, in their later years, recognize their mistakes and reach out, hoping to mend old rifts. Sometimes, a simple apology is all it takes to reopen a door, to share a meal, to build a bridge back to loved ones. But the window for reconciliation grows narrower with age, and not every child or former spouse is ready, or willing, to forgive. The lessons in these stories are clear. Our choices, especially in how we treat others, truly matter over the long haul. Respect, kindness, and patience are not just virtues for a peaceful home. They are investments in the relationships that will sustain us when we need them most. For those who have lived with poor conduct, the later years are often marked by reckoning, loneliness, and for some, the hope that it is never too late to change. For the rest of us, their stories serve as powerful reminders. Every day is a chance to choose compassion, to build up rather than tear down, and to leave behind the kind of legacy that draws loved ones close, not far away, when our twilight years arrive. 8. Elderly people who gave all their savings to their children. It's a story as old as time. Parents working hard, sacrificing comforts and dreams, all for the sake of their children. In countless American families, the instinct to give never truly fades, even as parents grow older and the needs of their golden years become clearer. For some, this love leads to one of the most profound acts of trust, handing over hard-earned savings, a home, or even a pension to their adult children, believing it will help the next generation find stability and happiness. But sometimes, this act of generosity brings heartbreak instead of comfort. Imagine spending a lifetime setting aside money, skipping vacations, working overtime, scrimping on pleasures, to build a nest egg for your family's future. The day finally comes when your child needs help. Maybe it's a down payment on a house, college tuition for their children, or a rescue from some unexpected misfortune. The decision feels obvious. After all, what's money for, if not to give your children a better shot in life? With open hands and an open heart, you transfer your savings, trusting that your child will use it wisely, and perhaps one day, return the favor when you're in need. But life, as it often does, can take a different turn. Sometimes the money is spent quickly, swallowed by bad luck or poor choices, leaving nothing for emergencies. Sometimes, the parent who gave everything is forgotten, taken for granted, or even resented for having strings attached to their generosity. In the worst cases, relationships sour, guilt or shame keeping children at a distance, or financial stress turning love into resentment. For the elderly parent, what was meant as a legacy of love can end up as a source of deep regret and vulnerability. Suddenly, the dreams of a peaceful retirement evaporate. With savings gone, there's no cushion for medical bills, home repairs, or even the little joys of life, a favorite meal, a trip to visit old friends, a treat for the grandchildren. The reality sets in. You must depend on the very children you tried to help, hoping they will step up when needed. For some, this trust is rewarded, and families come together in a spirit of gratitude and reciprocity. But for others, asking for help is met with awkwardness, impatience, or outright refusal. The parent's pride takes a hit, and the loneliness of financial dependence sets in. There's also a silent pain that comes from feeling invisible, watching as your children build their lives with your help, but forgetting the sacrifices that made it possible. Holidays and birthdays go by without acknowledgement, and the warmth you hope to keep in your family grows cold. Some elderly parents find themselves shuffling from one child's home to another, not truly welcome anywhere, burdened by the very generosity that was meant to bring closeness. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Still, the act of giving is not something to be ashamed of. It speaks to the very best parts of the human spirit: love, faith, and selflessness. But these stories are a reminder of the need for balance and wisdom. It's important to plan for your future, to keep enough for yourself, and to have honest conversations about boundaries, expectations, and needs. Giving is beautiful, But so is the right to age with dignity, security, and a measure of independence. For those who have already given all, know that your worth is not measured by what you still own, but by the love you've shown. And for those still making these choices, let these stories guide you. Protect your well-being, seek advice, and remember that caring for yourself is also a gift to your family. In the end, what matters most is not the money, but the enduring bonds of respect, gratitude, and love that last long after the last dollar is spent. 9. Elderly people whose children live far away. In today's fast-paced world, families are scattered farther than ever before. Grown children move away in search of better jobs, warmer climates, or new adventures, often landing states or even continents apart from the place they once called home. While everyone hopes their children will go on to lead fulfilling lives, the reality of those long distances can cast a quiet shadow over the lives of aging parents. For many seniors, the house that once bustled with noise and laughter now sits in stillness, filled with memories but short on company. The ache of separation isn't always immediate. At first, there is pride in seeing a child build a life of their own. There's the joy of graduation, a new job, a wedding in a distant city. Phone calls and video chats fill the gaps, and visits are planned with excitement and anticipation. But as the years roll by, travel becomes harder, bodies age, flights get longer, and health concerns add up. What used to be a short drive for a Sunday dinner now requires months of planning, and even then, something as simple as a winter storm or a minor illness can keep family members apart. For elderly people whose children live far away, the day-to-day can be painfully quiet. Medical appointments are navigated alone, small home repairs pile up, and holidays often pass in the company of old photos rather than family hugs. While technology can bridge some of the distance, a call on the phone can't replace the warmth of a handheld or the joy of watching grandchildren grow up right before your eyes. The loneliness is made more acute by the knowledge that, in moments of real need, help might not arrive for hours, or even days. Some seniors try to fill the void by forging closer ties with neighbors, friends, or church groups. They become regulars at local coffee shops, attend community events, and seek out activities to keep busy. Yet, as time marches on, health and mobility can make even these connections hard to maintain. For many, the ultimate fear is facing a medical emergency or a fall alone, with no family member close by to advocate or assist. This distance also brings unexpected challenges. Important decisions about housing, medical care, or end-of-life wishes become more complicated. Children far away may feel guilty, torn between responsibilities to their own families and careers and the desire to care for their aging parents. Misunderstandings can crop up over the phone, and relationships sometimes strain under the weight of missed milestones and unshared burdens. Yet, there is resilience and grace in the way many seniors navigate these circumstances. Some become masters of independence, learning new skills, embracing technology, and making the most of what they have. Others find comfort in the rhythms of their routines, or in the familiar sights and sounds of the home they've built over a lifetime. For those able, making annual trips to see children and grandchildren becomes a treasured event, even if it takes careful saving and planning. But the truth remains, no amount of phone calls or virtual visits can fully ease the ache of absence. The simple act of sitting together at the kitchen table, of sharing a laugh or a story in person, is irreplaceable. As a society, these stories remind us of the importance of checking in on our elderly neighbors and offering a helping hand where family cannot. For families spread across the miles, they are a call to cherish every visit, every moment, and to never take for granted the blessing of being together. In the end, love knows no borders, but the comfort of close family can never be underestimated, especially in the quiet, golden years of life. As we reach the end of this reflection, I hope these stories have offered not just insight, but a sense of connection, a gentle reminder that, in one way or another, all of us are walking this winding road of aging together. The faces and details may change, but the feelings are universal. The longing for dignity, the need for belonging, and the quiet hope that our years will be filled with both purpose and love. Whether you see yourself in these stories or know someone who does, you're not alone. Life's journey brings joys and hardships, and sometimes the greatest comfort comes from simply knowing that others understand. No one can predict exactly how their later years will unfold. We plan, we hope, and we do our best, but fate sometimes has its ideas. Yet, we can still choose how we care for ourselves and those around us. Reaching out to an old friend, saying a kind word to a neighbor, or simply listening, these small acts can make all the difference. If you are blessed with family nearby, cherish those moments. If you find yourself facing challenges, remember that resilience and hope can carry us farther than we ever imagined. Thank you for spending this time with me today and for being part of this community. If these stories have touched your heart, or if you'd like to share your own experiences, I invite you to join our journey of aging gracefully together. Please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. Every voice matters, and every story helps us all feel a little less alone. Until next time, take care of yourself and those you love.